Hello everyone, welcome to North Star Knife Reviews. A vintage knife for you today that I recently picked up. This is a vintage advertising knife, and it is one of the original hammer brands from New York Knife Company. Now, I don't know the exact date of this knife, but I'm going to guess sometime in the teens to maybe the early to mid 20s of the last century. So anywhere from like 1912 or 13 up until about 1925. And the reason I'm guessing that is because New York Knife Company went out of business in 1931. They sold the Hammer brand imprint to Imperial in 1936. So I know this was made 1931 or before. Now, you can see this is a metal handle on this, two-bladed, very thin. Let's get the length on here. Talking about 3 3/8 inches closed. The designing on this makes me think maybe late teens, maybe early 1920s. But anyway, you can see the name on here, E.H. Best and Company, Boston, Massachusetts, and on the back, Woolens Felts. Now, initially when I started trying to research this, there's an E.H. Best and Company department store in the Northeast, and originally I thought maybe that was who the advertiser was, but as I started looking into it more, although they had stores in the Boston area, they started in New York City and didn't actually open in Boston until 1933. Since this had to have been made 1931 or earlier, obviously it can't be that. So did a little more and found a little bit on a company called Edward H. Best and Company that started out in Boston. Now it's, I believe, in the suburbs of Boston. But they made felts, and they still do. They make currently industrial felts for filtering, belts and machines, those kind of things. And so I'm assuming that that is the same then company, because otherwise that'd be a pretty good coincidence. So I don't know exactly how long they've been around. I wasn't able to determine that because there's not a lot of history out there on them. But I do know that they've been around since at least the early to mid 20s, because I have found a couple of old letters online to companies who are looking to buy felts and talking about the orders. And the earliest I think I've seen on that is about 1922 or 23. So I know they were at least around then. They probably were around somewhat earlier than that. But I don't know. If anybody knows more about the company, please do let me know down below. I'm really interested. I'd like to know more about it. But I'm guessing that's who it was. So that's kind of cool. I really like these old vintage advertising knives. Two reasons. One, you've not just got the history of the knife, you've got the history of the company that's advertising on it. And second, you can often get these advertising knives much less expensively than if you got one that wasn't an advertising knife. If you've looked at New York Knife Company knives, they can be pretty expensive. Now this one certainly has some wear, but it's still got a decent snap and I think is in pretty good shape still for its age, given that it's probably, it's at least 90 years old, maybe 100. Here, we can take a look at the tang stamp. There's the Hammer brand. And then, I guess it's on the other blade. Hold on. Okay. New York Knife Company, Walden. Now, as I said, they went out of business in 31, so it's at least that. I can look at the history of the company. I can look at the history of the knife maker. And as I said, you can often get these more cheaply. The New York Knife Company knives, they can run $50, $100. I've seen really good copies of knives for $200. This I got for $10.50. Okay, plus I believe it was about $5 in shipping and tax, so a little over $15, which to me, for New York Knife Company knife, is a pretty good deal. You may disagree, but I'm really happy to have it. This is my first actual New York Knife Company Hammer brand knife. And I really like Hammer brand. I just think they're really interesting knives, and once they went to Imperial, the quality dropped, but They were meant as sort of an every person's knife that anybody could pick up very inexpensively. With New York Knife Company, they were a higher quality build, at least for the time. Now the two blades on this, we've got the main spear point blade, which is coming in about 2¼ inches with a cutting edge just a hair over 2 inches. And as you can see, it's had some use, a little nail nick, but still all in all in decent shape. And then the secondary blade, the little pen blade, has had more use. You can see it's sort of been reprofiled a little bit from the usage. But it is coming in about 1.5 inches with about 1¼ inch cutting edge. And again, you can see this one's been used a fair amount, but still got some life lift in it. I'm unlikely to carry this just because I really think, at 90 to 100 years old, it deserves to just be in a collection and not used, although I do use a lot of my knives. But I hope you found a look at this interesting. If you know anything about E.H. Best & Company, let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a good day, and I will catch you next time.